What's up, everyone? I'm Sofiya Pasternack, an award-winning author and mental health professional, and this channel is all about the intersection where writing meets psychology. I also post stuff about my author journey, baking bread, and outdoorsy stuff. If you're new here, make sure you subscribe so you're notified when I post a new video. So, I want you to ask yourself a question right now. What comes to mind when I say the word grief? Probably funerals, right? Death, loss, crying, rending of garments. And yes, that's definitely a component of grief and a situation in which it makes sense to experience grief. The words grief and mourning are oftentimes used as synonyms. Bereavement may be included as another synonym, but these terms are all slightly different. Grief is the process of psychological, social, and somatic, or physical, reactions to the perception of loss. The sadness, depression, anxiety, isolation, and physical ailments that can happen after a loss are considered grief. Mourning is the cultural response to grief. In the USA, mourning follows certain patterns which are entirely different from mourning in Brazil, or China, or Saudi Arabia. Every culture, even every subculture, down to family units, has a unique mourning process. Burials versus cremations, wearing black versus wearing white, sitting Shiva, going to wakes. All of these are different ways of mourning. Now, bereavement is the state of having suffered a loss. If you have experienced a loss, you are the bereaved, whether you have grief or not. Grief is one of the most universal experiences of human beings, but it's also one of the most individualized. No two people experience grief in the same way. Grief is affected by mourning culture and also that individual person's relationship to the loss. The more important the loss was, the more intense the grief will be. There are stages of grief, but these stages are somewhat confusing. Grief doesn't move in a straight line. It's more like a tangle of yarn. You wrestled with this tangle a week ago, you got it all untangled and wound up nicely and put away, but now when you come back to it, it's a mess again. So you have to pick at it again, untangle it, and next week, maybe that yarn will be fine. Maybe it'll be a little tangled, or maybe it will be a rat's nest again. You never know. Sofiya, you may be asking yourself right now, this is all very interesting, but what does this have to do with debuting a novel? That's a great question. What the heck does grief really have to do with something really great? You got an agent, you got a publisher, your cover is beautiful, your book is in stores, people are reading it, you should be happy, 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 but you're not. You're kind of sad, but you're happy too, but you're also sad. Your ball of yarn tangles and untangles and tangles again. You have experienced a loss after all. When you're writing your book, it belongs to you and you alone. Maybe you show it to your critique group or a CP or a beta reader, but ultimately it's yours. You call the shots. You decide everything. This book is entirely, utterly yours. You start trying to query it. You hand out little pieces of it to people, trying to entice them to take the whole thing. Sometimes people take the piece and then say they liked it but not enough, and they don't want the whole thing. Sometimes they won't even take that little piece you give them. And sometimes they take that little piece and they love it and they want all of it. They want more, more, more. The edit letter comes and you realize this book belongs to someone else now too. Your agent owns a piece of it. You have lost. But it's still yours mostly. You make edits you agree with and you hash things out with your agent about things you don't agree with, give and take. Then you go on sub. Pieces of your book are sent out, away from you. You get rejections from editors. You get interest from editors. You find one editor who is the best fit and you sign a contract. You announce. You rejoice. You have sold a book. You are living the dream. The edit letter comes. It's even bigger than the letter you got from your agent. This book belongs to someone else again. A bigger piece of it. You have lost even more. You make some edits. You don't make others. Back and forth. Give and take. The book is better, tighter, but it's not all yours. It has become a mosaic of you and your agent and your editor. And the cover comes. It's beautiful, but it's not yours. The face of your book does not belong to you. Or the cover comes and you hate it. It is not yours. It's slapped on the front of your book and it does not belong to you. Your editor hands your book off to a different editor for copy edits. You have lost. Arcs come. They are sent to more people, reviewers, good reviews, bad reviews, every person who reads the book takes from you. It belongs to them. You don't own it anymore. Release! The day you have been waiting for. Your little book has been in your hands at some point, in some way, during this entire process. But now it's gone. It belongs to your readers. It doesn't belong to you anymore. You have lost. And when you lose, you are bereaved. You mourn. You might even grieve. I've heard from many of my fellow debut authors that they are inexplicably sad about their book sale and publication. The sentiment is, I have achieved this amazing goal. I sold a book. This was my dream. I should be walking on literal sunshine, but I'm not. I am so sad. I'm anxious. I'm irritable. What is wrong with me? And the answer is nothing. Nothing is wrong with you. You're grieving a loss. You've lost your book to your agent, your editor, your readers, but you've also lost your dream. Once you achieve a dream, it winks away to make room for more dreams. But you've still lost it. You can feel lost yourself. What do I do now? When I was 7 years old, I decided that I wanted to publish a book. I wanted a book out there with my name on the cover. I knew nothing about how the book world worked, where books came from, the art of storytelling, nothing. I just knew I wanted to write a book. And I did. I wrote a lot of books. Most of them were terrible. But as I wrote and dreamed and strove for publication, I got better. So much better that eventually one of those books got picked up by an agent and an editor and released last September. And I won an award for it. Like, that's nuts. I did it. I achieved my dream and then some. A dream I had had for 27 years at that point. A dream that was gone now. Poof. I got really depressed for a lot of reasons. One of which was the realization that I had achieved my lifelong dream, and I circled the void where that dream had lived for so long, staring at it, wondering to myself, what am I supposed to do with all this emptiness? Filling it with another dream was so daunting. It felt like too much, so I left it empty. I had lost, and I grieved. I still grieve. So many things in our lives sweep through and cause us to grieve. Graduating high school, because you've lost that unique time of life, those friends. Moving away to college or work, because you've lost that comfort of home. Getting married, because you've lost your identity as a single person instead of one half of a relationship. Having a child, because you've lost your free time and your ability to do whatever you want to do. Uninterrupted sleep, gone. And now sending your kids to school because you've lost the status of being their entire world. We lose friends to moves or distance or politics. We lose family members to the same, and we lose both to death. To live is to grieve. We are all bereaved of something. So what do we do with this permeating grief? How are we supposed to carry on? I have to tell you something, and you might not like it. It might upset you, and I'm sorry. But you will never be able to go back to the way things were. Think of it as one of those Mario levels where you can only go in one direction, and if you try to go back, you get pushed into a lava or eaten by a giant flower. For debut authors grieving the loss of our book and of our dream, there is only forward. You can't go back. You have to move forward. There is a new world at the end of it. For some of us, that new world is writing more books forever. For some of us, that new world is writing no more books, going back to our day jobs, but still checking our Amazon rankings sometimes. For others, that new world is something else entirely. But you are changed no matter what. You are bereaved no matter what. And if you grieve, you're not wrong. If you're sad or anxious or restless or irritable, you are not wrong. Be kind to yourself and to your fellow debuts. They're all grieving too. So I wrote this up as a blog post quite a while ago when I was debuting and when I was grieving. And I thought it would make a good video topic because I think it's something that we need to be reminded of fairly often. So if this video rang true for you, I would really appreciate a thumbs up and also a share. If you know somebody who is bereaved of anything, they need to know that it's okay to grieve. especially during these coronavirus times, we are all bereaved of something. We have all lost. Even if that loss is just the ability to go to work or the ability to hang out with friends and have lunch with people, we have all lost and we are all bereaved. We are all grieving and mourning. And some people are irritable, and some people are angry, and some people are anxious, and some people are unshakably depressed. And all of that is totally normal for what's happening right now. And if you are feeling that way, and if you feel just crushed by the weight of this thing that is happening to everyone, please know that what you're feeling is normal, and everyone else in your life is probably feeling it to some point too. But also know that if you think you need to talk to somebody, you think you need help, you're probably right. So reach out to somebody, even if it isn't a mental health professional, because that can be kind of daunting. Reach out to a friend, reach out to a family member, just for now, and say, I'm having a hard time. That's good enough. Really, that's good enough. Connect with people in your life. For all of the debut authors who are trying to debut a book right now of all times, you are all awesome. And I've been so blown away by all of the really imaginative and um, just inventive ways that people are marketing and doing online launch parties, and the way that communities have rallied has been so amazing to watch. And I am really pulling for all of you, and I really hope that you can see the success that you all deserve with your books. So that's all for me. Have a good day.